Hi, today I pick up with reading from The Art of Being and Becoming by Hazrat Inayat Khan. So, here's the picture. Let's see where we left off. Chapter 18, Self-Control and Reaction. Every circumstance, favorable or unfavorable, in which a person finds himself, and every person agreeable or disagreeable in whose presence he is, causes him to react. Upon this reaction depends the person's happiness and his spiritual progress. If he has control over this reaction, it means that he is progressing. If he has no control over it, it shows that he is going backward. When you take two people, a wise and a foolish one, the wise person reacts more intensely than the foolish one. Also, a fine person naturally reacts more than a dense one. A just person more than an unjust one, and a spiritual person more than a materialist. Yet it is lack of mastery when one has no control over one's reactions. A person who is fine, spiritual, sensitive, wise, and just, but who has no control over his reactions, is incomplete. This shows that even becoming fine and just and spiritual is not sufficient. For all these qualities, though they make one finer and more sensitive, yet weaken one in the face of the disturbing influences of the crowd. And when this is the case, one will not be perfect. The balance of life lies in being as fine as a thread and as strong as a steel wire. If one does not show endurance and strength to withstand all the opposing and disturbing influences among which one always has to be in life, one certainly reveals weakness and lack of development. In the first place, this reaction causes a person a certain amount of vanity. He believes he is better than the one who disturbs him, though he cannot with certainty say that he is stronger. When he cannot put up with conditions around him, he may think that he is a superior person, but in reality the conditions are stronger than he. If we are born on earth, if we are destined to walk on the earth, we cannot dream of paradise while we have to stand firm in all the circumstances that the earth presents us with. When a person progresses towards spirituality, he must bear in mind that together with his spiritual progress, he must strengthen himself against disturbing influences. If not, he should know that however much he desires to make progress, he will be pulled back against his will by conditions, by circumstances. There are 4 different ways in which a person reacts: in deed, in speech, in thought, and in feeling. A deed produces a definite result. Speech produces effect. Thought produces atmosphere. And feeling produces conditions. Therefore, no way in which a person reacts will be without effect. A reaction will be perceived quickly or slowly, but it must be perceived. Very often, a reaction is not only agreeable to oneself, but to others also. A person who answers an insult by insulting the other stands on the same level of insult. The one who does not answer stands above it. In this way, one can rise above things against which one reacts. If only one knows how to fly. It is flying above things instead of standing against them as a material person does. How can one call oneself spiritual if one cannot fly? This is the first condition of being spiritual. The whole mechanism of this world is action and reaction. In the objective world as well as in the world of humanity. Only in man there is the possibility of developing that spirit which is called the spirit of mastery. And that spirit is best developed by trying to gain control over one's reactions. Life offers us abundant occasions from morning till evening to practice this lesson. With every move, at every turn we make, we are faced with something agreeable or disagreeable, harmonious or inharmonious, either a condition or a person. If we react automatically, we are no better than a machine and no different from thousands and millions of people who react so. The only way to find in ourselves a trace of that divine heritage, which is mastery, is by controlling our reactions against all influences. In theory, it is simple and easy. In practice, it is the most difficult thing there is to master. But when we think of its usefulness, we shall find that there is nothing in the world that is more necessary and more important than this development. If there is any strength to be found in the world, that strength is within ourselves, and the fact that we are able to control our reactions is the proof of this. Self-control preserves dignity. It maintains honor. It is this which sustains respect, and it is this which keeps people wise. It is easy to think, but it is difficult to continue to be a thoughtful person. Very often, people have asked me if there is any practice, any study, anything that one can do in order to develop willpower. And I have answered that yes, there are many practices in many ways, but the simplest and best practice that one can follow without being taught is to have one's reactions always in hand. Such expressions as, I cannot endure, I cannot stand, I cannot sustain, I cannot have patience, all mean to me, I am weak. By speaking thus, we only admit, in other words, that we are weak. And can there be anyone in the world who is a worse enemy to us than our own weakness? If the whole world were our friend, that one enemy, our weakness, would be enough to ruin our life. But once this enemy is conquered, we can stand against all those who come into conflict with us. Now the question is how one should set to work in the development of willpower. One must take into consideration one's physical condition. The nervous system must be in proper condition. It is from nervousness that man goes from bad to worse. Even a good person with good intentions may prove to be otherwise. For he may have good intentions but be unable to carry them out because his nerves are weak. What he needs is the habit of silence, of concentration, of meditation. A person who continually goes on talking or doing things and does not meditate for a while, who does not take a rest, cannot control his nervous system and keep it in order. If there is anything that can control the nervous system, it is right breathing. And when that right breathing is done together with the concentration of thought, then the nervous system is greatly fortified. There are many things that cause unhappiness, and these can often be avoided by keeping the nervous system in hand. When we look at it from a higher point of view, the will can be developed by denying the impulses that sometimes arise suddenly and that clamor for an answer. What is called self-denial is really this: that one controls one's thoughts and wishes and desires and passions. But that does not mean retirement from life in the world. It only means taking oneself in hand. It is never too soon to begin control, and it is never too late to improve it. If this kind of education is given from childhood, wonderful results can be brought about. In ancient times in India, though one sees very little of it now, youths were trained in asana, a certain way of sitting, of walking, of standing, and by that they first achieved control over their muscles and nerves. It would be of immense value if education today adopted both the study of controlling reactions and the practice of it in sports and gymnastics. If a youth of 12 to 16 years old can learn to breathe clearly and rhythmically and deeply enough, that alone would be something. The control of reactions will always give a certain amount of pain, but at the same time, it is by suffering that one will gain the power to rise above it. But of course, if this is not understood rightly, one might endanger oneself. There is a danger in both cases. On one side there is a pit, on the other side there is water. A person who, because he is afraid of getting hurt or being oppressed by someone, is always keeping his thoughts and feelings suppressed, might, if he had expressed them, have become a very bad man. But by not having been able to express them, he is ruined. Therefore, one should develop one's discrimination in order to analyze one's reaction to understand it before it is expressed. One should always ask oneself, that which is in my hand now, shall I not throw it away? By throwing it away, shall I do something wrong? Where shall I throw it? Will it fall on my head? What will become of it? A person should know what he has in his hand. If in order to avoid breaking another person's head, he breaks his own head, he has done wrong too. Then what should he do? Instead of throwing the impulses that come to him out automatically, he should first weigh them, analyze them, measure them, and use them to the best advantage in life. A stone is not used only to break another person's head or to break one's own head. It is also used to build houses. Use everything where it will be most useful, where it will be of some advantage. All such things as passion and anger and irritation one looks upon as very bad, as evil. But if that evil were kept in hand, it could be used for a good purpose. Because it is a power, it is an energy. In other words, evil, properly used, becomes a virtue. And virtue wrongly used becomes an evil. For instance, when a person is in a rage, or when he really feels like being angry, if he controls that thought and does not express it in words, that gives him great power. Otherwise, the expression has a bad effect upon his nerves. His control of it has given him an extra strength that will remain with him. A person who has anger and control is to be preferred to the person who has neither. Does not self-control take away spontaneity? Self-control gives a greater spontaneity. It develops thought power. It makes one think first about every impulse, which otherwise would have manifested automatically. In other words, hold the word between the lips before it drops out. Is impulse before it is controlled wrong in itself, or is it good? When one thinks about the origin of impulse, one goes in quite a different direction of thought. Then one has to think in what direction it is facing, also of the direction of the mind, whether it is in illumination or in darkness. The mind is sometimes illuminated, sometimes in darkness, and one should think about the condition of the mind at the time. There is another thing to be considered in this connection. A person may have good intention, and his mind may be focused on good ideas. And then another with evil intentions and wrong ideas may say or do something that automatically turns the mind of the first person to evil against his own will. There is the word of the Bible, resist not evil. Sometimes evil will come like fire thrown by a person into the mind of another. A fire then starts in that mind which had been without it, and in reaction it too expresses that fire. To resist evil is to send fire in answer to fire, in other words, to partake of the fire that comes from another. But by not partaking of it, one casts the fire out and it falls on the person who threw it. The best thing is to go through every condition that life presents with patience, with understanding, with open eyes, and so try to rise above it with every little effort we can make. Well, thanks for listening and watching. Like and subscribe. Catch me in the next video, and may you find lasting happiness.